All right, ladies and gentlemen, of course, the release of Alan Gross, as we have talked about, and Barack Obama today talking about normalizing relations with Cuba. Joining us now is Alfredo Duran. He is a attorney, Cuban-born attorney. He's on the board of directors of Cuban Committee for Democracy. He was captured during the invasion of the Bay of Pigs. He was held for 18 months in Cuban prison, and he joins us from Miami. Mr. Duran, a pleasure to talk to you, sir.
Steve, a pleasure to be in your show.
Well, thank you very much. Your reaction, first of all, to the release, the trade, if you will, for the 3 Cuban spies in return for Alan Gross.
Well, of course, I'm very happy for Mr. Gross and his family. And this is something that should have been done a long time ago. I think that the main reason that the Cuban government chose to release them now is because of the health of Mr. Gross, and they didn't want to have the risk that Mr. Gross would get worse in Cuba or might die in Cuba. So I really am very glad for his whole family, and I'm very glad that this thing happened.
Okay, having said that, you know, the way I look at this is Cuba released a guy that was no threat to their country and never should have been in prison for 5 years. We gave up 3 spies who were spies, and now we're rewarding Cuba for doing this, as the president has now used this as a pretext for opening up relations with Castro and Cuba.
Well, the 2 of the 3 spies that are being released by the United States government, 2 of them were about ready to be released anyway because their sentence was about to expire. One of them, of course, had 2 or 3 life sentences, and he was not ready to be released, but 2 of them were. Now, I don't think that President Obama has much leeway in establishing any kind of relationship with the government of Cuba, because diplomatic relations and relations with the government of Cuba are regulated by the Helms-Burton Act, especially Title III, and that can only be resolved by Congress, and I don't think the present Congress is very inclined to do anything that would establish relationships with Cuba. The only thing that President Obama can do is establish diplomatic relations and opening up the embassy and opening up some consulates, both in Cuba here and the United States there, but not much more than that. The Helms-Burton bill regulates most of the things that can happen in Cuba, and that is determined by Title III, which requires the Cuban government to have democracy, to hold elections, to observe human rights, to release all prisoners, all political prisoners, and I don't think that the Cuban government is ready to do that yet.
Right, and so how do you feel? I mean, what the president has said was that isolation hasn't worked. He said that I guess the tension between the countries is 50 years old. He said that we have relations with China, and they're a repressive dictatorship. He's kind of making every excuse in the book for trying to make things normal between the U.S. and Cuba. Do you favor that?
Well, what I do favor is that and I do believe that the reason that the Cuban government every time and every president has tried to do this, to establish better relations with every president since the Kennedys, establish better relations, Cuba does something to stop it. The embargo is something that Cuba doesn't want them to be lifted, because it is the excuse for everything that goes wrong in Cuba. It is an excuse for their disastrous economy, for not having political rights, for not having human rights, for having political prisoners. Basically, what they say is this: we are a state of war with the United States because no friendly country embargoes or puts an embargo on another friendly country. So therefore, we cannot have the civil rights that we would want our people to have. We cannot have human rights. We have to have political prisoners.
Right.
We have to have a huge standing army. And that is the excuse.
All right, so Alfredo, how will this be different? Are they going to do something to sabotage this as well?
There's nothing that they can do. Alan Gross has been released. The 2 prisoners, the 3 prisoners here have been released. The embargo cannot be lifted because it's in the Helms-Burton law. The only thing, like I say, that the United States government can possibly do by executive order, by the president, open the embassies and establish more or less closer diplomatic relations. but nothing else can happen.
All right, Alfredo Duran, thank you very much, sir. We'll call on you again. Have a great day.
My pleasure.
That's very experienced man on this issue, who actually was recruited by the CIA for the Bay of Pigs invasion and was captured and spent time in Cuban prison. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Of course, there's bipartisan outrage already from Senator Menendez on the Democratic side in the Senate, saying that the president has vindicated the brutal behavior of the Cuban government, and by Marco Rubio, who says Congress will not support a Cuban embassy. All right, we're going to continue. Lanny Davis, former counsel for President Bill Clinton, will be here. Don't go away.